Hello and welcome back to Noodle Alarm Productions. The day before opening day, I will be coming at you with my 2023 MLB season predictions. Now, the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to talk about the divisions first and how I think each division will play out. And then I will be talking about my postseason predictions and who I think will win the World Series. And just as a disclaimer, teams such as the Oakland A's and the Washington Nationals, I'm not going to be talking about too much considering they're not really postseason contenders and they're kind of just going to be gliding through the season waiting for 2024. So to get us started, I believe the AL East winner will be the Toronto Blue Jays. And I believe the New York Yankees will be gaining a wild card spot. Now, getting us started with the teams that did not make the postseason, I want to look at Baltimore and Tampa. Starting off with Baltimore, I just think they're too young right now. I don't think they're ready to truly compete, especially in the AL East. That's a really good division. They had an awful offseason. Their biggest signing was Adam Frazier. Their pitching has a lot of questions if they can be healthy. Grayson Rodriguez is coming up, but John Means is coming off Tommy John. There's just too many questions with Baltimore right now. I think give it a year, and I think in a year they'll actually be in a wild card spot. They're just not there yet. And that's okay. That their rebuild is coming along well, and they're going to have a successful rebuild. They're just a year off right now. And then looking at Tampa Bay, I like Tampa Bay's pitching. They're always going to have good pitching. There's no doubt about that. I just have questions about where their offense is going to be coming from. Wander Franco seems to be always hurt, and that's kind of their main guy. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It is bad, but he just always seems to be hurt. I wish he wasn't because I would love to see a healthy Rays compete. But, it just seems like he's always on the IL. And outside of him, you have Randy Arozarena as a spark plug for runs, which, if you watch the WBC, you know how good Randy Arozarena is. But, outside of that, I don't see much offense being there. I don't. Maybe their pitching carries them to a postseason spot, but I can't justify a postseason spot with the offense that they have. Now I want to jump ahead to why Toronto won the AL East rather than the Yankees. While the Yankees do have a really good starting rotation and a better rotation than Toronto, I simply like Toronto's offense much, 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 much better than the Yankees. I think Toronto has a lot less question marks on offense. And I think while they will be giving up a few more runs than New York, I think they will be scoring much more runs than New York will be. Going through and looking at position by position, starting with first base, you got Anthony Rizzo versus Vlad Jr. I'm taking Vlad Jr. You look at shortstop, Anthony Volpe versus Bo Bichette. How's Volpe going to perform in his first year? That's a question mark. And even if it isn't Volpe, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. And either way, I'm taking Bo Bichette currently. Third base, Matt Chapman or Josh Donaldson. If this was a few years ago, I'd take Josh Donaldson. But right now, I don't know how Josh Donaldson's going to perform. There's a big question mark with how Josh Donaldson is going to be hitting. Is he going to hit like he did in the past, or is he going to be a 200 hitter with maybe 15 home runs? Looking at the outfield, George Springer or Aaron Judge. You're obviously going to go Aaron Judge, but outside of that, who really else in the outfield is going to be that Yankees guy? The Blue Jays have Dalton Varsho out there too. I'm taking the Blue Jays outfield rather than the Yankees outfield. I guess the Yankees also have an advantage at DH with Giancarlo Stanton, but he's a question mark. So, I just think the Yankees have too many question marks for them to win the AL East. And I think the Toronto Blue Jays are just the all-around better team, and I believe they will be the winners of the AL East. Now moving on to the NL East, I have the Atlanta Braves winning the NL East with the New York Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies gaining wildcard spots. Now, for the Nationals and the Marlins, honestly, they're just fighting for a fourth place spot. Neither of those teams are truly going to be able to compete with the top three. They're just not ready yet. But looking at the Phillies offense is unbelievable. I mean, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Alec Bohm, JT Realmuto, Trey Turner, which if you watch the WBC, you know he's ready to hit home runs and steal bags left and right. They're just they're gonna mash their way to a postseason spot. Their pitching is good. It's nothing too good. It's not amazing, but their pitching is gonna get the job done. They're above average pitching staff. Bring in arms like Gregory Soto. I think that's a really good pickup. They got Brandon Marsh in center field. They're gonna mash their way to a postseason spot. And honestly, I most definitely do not want my team facing them in the postseason. So I most definitely see the Phillies being a threat. But I think at the end of the day, they get a third place spot because, I mean, while being as good as they are, the teams above them are just on another level. They're unbelievable. And starting off with the New York Mets, they should be easily the best team in baseball. With the money that's been spent, with just the names that they have, they should easily be, at minimum, a top 5 team. However, my biggest question mark with the Mets is health. You have Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer headlining your rotation. However, they're in their 40s now. Are they going to be able to pitch like they used to? Are they going to be able to put up the high innings like they used to? That's a huge question mark. I want them healthy, of course, but I mean, they're getting to that age where injuries are going to be coming often, and it's a concern. Looking at the Mets offense, I mean, you got Starling Marte, who is starting to get older, and Eduardo Escobar. There's just question marks with health and age on there, and they already have health problems with their star closer Edwin Diaz going down in the WBC. So I mean, there's just question marks there with health. But if we're talking about fully healthy teams, I think the New York Mets win the World Series. But I just have too many question marks with the Mets' health to put them any higher than a wild card spot, especially with the division-winning Atlanta Braves being in their division. And that leads me to the Atlanta Braves. The Braves are so good. The Braves are so good. I mean, they're so young. Their offense is explosive. I mean, they have names: Ronald Acuna Jr., Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Travis d'Arnaud, Ozzie Albies, Michael Harrison, Vaughn Grisham. I mean, just names come out of everywhere, and they just keep producing names. Their pitching is top 5 rotation. I mean, headlined by Max Fried and Spencer Strider. You look at their bullpen's always good. They're a good team all around. I mean, I have a hard time believing they don't win the NL East, even with how good it is. They just have that team that's ready to compete. They've been there. They know how to play in those big spots. They're ready. And they are a seasoned young team that is ready to make another World Series run. Moving on to debatably the worst division now, the AL Central. And I have the Cleveland Guardians winning the AL Central. Really, I think this is the Guardians' division to lose. I like the White Sox, but they really they had an awful offseason. There's not much there to be too excited about. They went 81-81, I think. I think they'll do that again. They didn't add much. They lost Jose Abreu. They have a good pitching staff with Cease. I mean, I just feel bad for the White Sox fans. I mean, they're just right on the cusp, and they are not breaking through. And I just don't see it happening again this year. But moving on to the biggest threats to Cleveland for the AL Central is the Minnesota Twins. The Twins have a good team. They're most definitely not a bad team. I mean, you got Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa, Joey Gallo for starters. And then looking on the pitching side, you got Joe Ryan, Kenta Maeda. I mean, you got Duran. I mean, you got names that are ready to come up and pitch. I just I just don't see the Twins being able to keep up with the team that is the Cleveland Guardians. I just don't see it. I think there's too many holes with Minnesota still. I think there's a lot of question marks, but I most definitely could see in a year the 1 and 2 spot here swapping in Minnesota, even if they made just a few trade deadline acquisitions. I think they could make the postseason and even take Cleveland out. But for the moment, I got to give it to Cleveland. Cleveland's a good team. I mean, starting with their pitching, I mean, you got McKenzie, you got Shane Bieber. I mean, you got just names left and right, and their offense just is starting to look so good. Headlined by Jose Ramirez, you got Jimenez, you got Naylor, you got Straw, you got Josh Bell, just Mike Zunino is now on the team. I mean, you just got names everywhere. They just look like a good team, and that's not even mentioning Steven Kwan, who just can hit a ball wherever it's pitched and get a hit with it. He's just an unbelievable batter, has an unbelievable eye. Just the Guardians are ready to compete, and I think just like the Twins, if they got a trade deadline acquisition or two, I think they are in very much of a good spot to even compete for a World Series. They are a very, very good and underrated team. Now looking to the NL Central, I have the Milwaukee Brewers winning the NL Central over the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, getting us started with the Cubs, they might be a threat for a postseason spot, but I think just like the Orioles, they're about a year out. I don't think they're ready yet. They brought in some good names. They had a much better offseason than the Orioles. However, I just don't see them able to be ready to compete yet. I think they have a lot of question marks still. But in about a year or two, I most definitely see them competing for an NL Central title. But moving on to St. Louis on why they didn't even get a postseason spot, I'm going to start by saying their offense is most definitely not the issue. Their offense is star-studded. Their offense is debatably the best in the MLB, with names such as Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, Tommy Edman, Nolan Gorman. You got Brendan Donovan as well. You got Jordan Walker being called up. You got Tyler O'Neill. Just everywhere. That's not even mentioning Lars Nootbaar, WBC favorite. Just everyone just seems to be able to hit on that team. I don't think the Cardinals have done anything wrong offensively yet. But my biggest issue with St. Louis and why they don't even make a postseason spot is their starting rotation. Their starting rotation is awful. It's not good. It's headlined by Adam Wainwright, who can't hit 90 anymore. And just, he's already on the IL. I mean, I believe their opening day starter is Jordan Montgomery, which was like the fourth starter on the Yankees before he was traded. I mean, you got Steven Matz and Miles Michaelis, who just signed a 2-year, $40 million deal. I just don't see that pitching rotation being able to get them anywhere. Their offense is going to put up runs, but their pitching staff, at least their starting pitching, their bullpen's decent. Their starting pitching is going to give up just runs after runs after runs after runs. I don't have confidence that offense, with even how good it is going to be able to keep up with how bad the starting rotation is. And that's just a main reason on why I just can't see them winning the Central. Maybe with a trade deadline acquisition or two, they'll be able to get it together and get that pitching staff together. But right now, I can't give them above a 2 in their own division. That's not a very good division. And with number 1, I think either way, even if St. Louis had a little bit better pitching, I still think I would put Milwaukee as the best team in the NL Central and the NL Central winners. Milwaukee finally did something that they have neglected to do for the past few years that has bit them in the butt. They finally decided to get some good offense. Milwaukee's offense is finally, at worst, average. I mean, you bring in Jesse Winker, who, while he did have a down year last year, he hit 300 in the NL Central with the Reds and has like a 400 batting average in AmFam. I mean, you got names like Christian Yelich. How is he going to perform? If he goes back to MVP form, I mean, the Brewers are easily one of the best teams out there with a good Yelich and just 75% of MVP Yelich. They are easily going to be producing runs. And that's not even mentioning Willie Adames, who just had I believe, a 30 home run season. Luis Urias, which is he's going to have a breakout season here soon. I'm a very big Luis Urias believer. I mean, you got Garrett Mitchell, who in 40 games, which is, I understand, a small sample size, he had 300. William Contreras, they brought in between the trade with them in Oakland and the Braves, which they just got for a bargain. They didn't give up anyone for William Contreras, who will hit maybe 30 home runs this season. I mean, then you look at first base, they have Rowdy Tellez, which will be producing, and he's just coming off of a 35 home run season. I mean, they finally have offense, and this isn't even bringing up the fact that their pitching staff is potentially one of the best in the MLB, if not the best. I mean, you look at their starting rotation, Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta, Wade Miley, Eric Lauer. I mean, that's such a good top five. And if you're talking about a top five on starting rotation and you're bringing up health and everything, I think the Brewers make a case for the best. I mean, their pitching staff is ready to compete. This team is ready to compete for a World Series. They have the firepower finally on offense to compete. It's just fact of the matter, are they going to be able to piece it together? I really like this Brewers team. I really do. Moving on to the AL West, I have the Houston Astros winning the AL West with the Texas Rangers and Seattle Mariners gaining wildcard spots. Now, starting with the Los Angeles Angels, it's kind of hard not to talk about them with Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, but they just have too many question marks. Their offense is going to be good, but, I mean, their pitching isn't going to be good at all. Their bullpen's not ready. They're just not ready to compete yet. I mean, which sucks because it's the last year of Shohei Ohtani in Anaheim. And while hot take, I believe the Angels will bring back Shohei Ohtani. I just think he's too big of an asset. I just don't see them able to compete yet, especially with the three above them that are really good now. Now, starting off with the Mariners are going to be sneaky. People are already putting them high. I think they're going to be better than what people are saying. Their pitching staff, headlined by Robbie Ray, so good. I mean, top 10 easily. Easily top 10. And then their offense is finally getting it together with names like J-Rod and other play. I mean, just so good. I really like Seattle's team. But mainly, I really want to talk about the Texas Rangers. I'm very high on the Texas Rangers. I think their offense has to go down as one of the best ever in the MLB. I mean, they just completely revamped their starting rotation. I mean, Jacob deGrom, are you kidding? That's already just a huge pickup. And then you get Andrew Heaney, Nathan Eovaldi. I mean, you're starting Martin Perez and John Gray. That's such a good rotation. That might be the most slept-on rotation in the MLB, just because people look at deGrom and say, oh, he's really good, but who else is there? I mean, Martin Perez is coming off an all-star season. John Gray just came off of a down season. He's expected to bounce back. Nathan Eovaldi killed it in Boston. Andrew Heaney just had a really good season with LA. I think they're set to compete, and that's not even mentioning Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, who are going to be studs whenever they finally get called up. And then you look at that offense just hits bombs. I mean, you got Adolis Garcia, you got Nate Lowe, I mean, Mitch Garver behind the plate, or Jonah Heim, whoever they want to start back there. Marcus Semien, I mean, Corey Seager, Josh Young. I mean, I'm really high on Josh Young as well. I think they're a really good team. I think I believe that they will be making a trade acquisition for another bat, and that's going to take them over to the next level. I really like this Rangers team, and owners and GMs and the team are ready to compete, and they will be competing for a World Series this year. Count on it. Now, is there really any question with who's going to win the AL West? It's the Houston Astros. The Astros are too good. The Astros just seem to reload no matter who they lose. I mean, they just got Jose Abreu to add to that team. I mean, this is basically the team that they just had, and they're adding Jose Abreu. I mean, they lost Jose Altuve, but I mean, outside of that, I mean, just so good. Just so good. That pitching staff's unbelievable. Everything's unbelievable. Just so good. I just have a hard time believing that anybody competes with them and even just does anything to even threaten an AL West title and take it from them. Houston Astros winning the AL West easy. And the winner of the NL West will be the San Diego Padres. Getting us started, I don't think any of the bottom three teams will be able to compete for even a postseason spot. Arizona, maybe. They're still really young. I think they got a little bit to go. I like their pitching, but they still got a little bit. Now, the real kicker is the Angels or the Los Angeles taking a wild card and the Padres winning the division. I mean, if you said that 2 years ago, I think you would have laughed at it. But, I mean, the Padres just decided it was time to just spend loads of money and got everyone. I mean, Josh Hader, Fernando Tatis, Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, Jake Cronenworth. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, they are loaded. They are ready to compete. I mean, they want to compete this year. Their question mark is maybe their starting pitching, but that's about it. The Dodgers have question marks now. Is Miguel Vargas that guy? Is he going to be the third baseman? I mean, outside of Mookie Betts, is their outfield set? I mean, who's going to play shortstop now that Gavin Lux is hurt? I mean, they have a really good top half of that lineup. I mean, you got Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Max Muncy. But, I mean, outside of that, I mean, there's question marks. And this is the first time in a long time that Los Angeles has question marks. Their bullpen's going to be nasty. Their pitching's going to be nasty no matter who's in it. But, I mean, that offense has question marks now. And I have a hard time seeing the Dodgers taking the Padres. And I like the Padres this year. The Padres have a really good team. I mean, they are a really, really good team. I mean, finally their owner wanted to get a title in San Diego, and they're ready to compete. They're a World Series threat and potentially the best team in the MLB. So now I'm going to start going over my postseason predictions and getting us started with the seeding. This is how I see the seeds playing out. Starting with the AL, I have the Astros as the 1 seed, Blue Jays as the 2 seed, Guardians as the 3 seed, Yankees as the 4 seed, Rangers as the 5 seed, and the Mariners as the 6 seed. Now looking over at the NL, I see the Padres as the 1 seed, the Braves as the 2 seed, the Brewers as the 3 seed, the Mets as the 4 seed, the Phillies as the 5 seed, and the Dodgers as the 6 seed. Now, getting us started with the AL wildcard. Starting us off with the AL wildcard, it'd be Cleveland versus Seattle and the Yankees versus the Rangers. Starting off with Cleveland and Seattle, man, I really want to say Cleveland runs away with this because I really do like that Cleveland team. I just think Seattle's ready. I think Seattle will finally get that postseason series victory that they've waited so long for. I think that pitching staff will carry it to them. I think that bullpen will get it there. I think they even shut out. If this were to happen, I think they shut them out on their final game. I really, really, really like the Mariners this year. I really do. So give me the Mariners in 3 in Cleveland being sent home first round. Now looking at the Yankees and the Rangers, this is hard. I mean, you're going to have DeGrom versus Cole in the first game, considering injuries are off the table. I mean, that is a good start. That is a very, very good start. I got to give that to DeGrom, though. And then you look at the second one, Heaney versus Rodon. Probably Rodon takes that one. I think the offenses are very similar. I think the Rangers even potentially have a little bit of a better offense than the Yankees. They're similar teams. They're very similar teams. They are very, very similar teams. However, my prediction is going to be Rangers in 3. Why? I think their bullpen does it. I trust the Rangers bullpen more than the Yankees. And if you do not know the Rangers bullpen, go take a look at it because it is good. It is extremely good. So give me the Rangers in 3 in their final game being a 4-3 victory with a Nate Lowe go-ahead home run. That's my prediction. So these are the winners, and moving on. Moving on to the NL wildcard, I have the Brewers versus the Dodgers and the Mets versus the Phillies. Starting off Brewers versus Dodgers, I think the Brewers win it too. I have so many questions about the Dodgers. Their pitching is good. That is true. But with that offense, I don't trust the Dodgers offense. If somebody can give me a reason why I should trust them, tell me. But outside of that, those 4 or 5, there's not much there that I'm truly trusting. So give me the Brewers in 2. Then looking at the Mets versus Phillies, just a dream matchup. The nation will be watching. It's so good. Star power versus star power. I like both teams a lot. This is most definitely going to 3, without a doubt. I'm going to have to say Mets in 3. Mets in 3 only because Francisco Lindor hits a 2-run shot and that gives them the lead. So give me the Brewers in 2 and Mets in 3. And the Brewers and Mets will be moving on. Starting with the AL Divisional round now. Seattle Mariners versus the Toronto Blue Jays. Both teams just super good. I already went off on why I like Toronto so much. I like both teams a lot. However, that rotation that Seattle has mixed with the offense that they have that doesn't much have question marks, they're ready. I think in 4 games, the Mariners beat the Blue Jays in 4 to move on to the AL Championship Series. And then moving on to a Lone Star State showdown, the Rangers versus the Astros. I think the Rangers got this. I do. I like the Rangers in this. If this was a season series, give me the Astros. But I think the Rangers, they're going to be coming off of that wild card series victory, and they're going to be rolling. With DeGrom and those pitchers that they have, their offense, the Astros are the Giants. They're obviously going to be favorites all the time. But with what the Rangers are bringing in, give me the Rangers in 5. So these 2 teams will be facing off in the AL Championship. Now moving on to the NL Divisional, it will be the Brewers versus the Braves and the Mets versus the Padres. Starting with Brewers versus Braves, give me the Brewers. Their rotation is going to be healthy, is going to be rolling, coming off of the wild card. They are going to be... That is a rotation that no team in the NL wants to face come postseason time. You're going to have to beat Burns, Woodruff, Peralta, Wade Miley, and Eric Lauer. You're going to have to beat 3 of those pitchers. And I find that really, really, really difficult to see any team doing. I don't see any team doing that. At least not Atlanta. Give me the Brewers in 4. Now, looking at the Mets versus Padres, just a dream matchup. There's no doubt this is a dream matchup. This is if one of those teams were in the AL, this would be a World Series dream matchup. But it's not the World Series. Give me the Mets. I like the Mets. I think the Mets have the power and will be healthy come postseason time. I think they're going to rest them up right. They're finally there. I think the Mets will be winning, and they will win in 5 against the Padres, who the only reason that I don't have them moving on is because that starting rotation outside of Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove just isn't much there. And that's the only reason that I have the Mets moving on in 5. So these two teams will be facing an NL championship. Moving on to the AL championship, it will be the Mariners versus the Rangers. This is hard. This is hard for me. I could see either of these teams going on. I could see either of these teams going for a championship. I think it's finally their season. I think it's finally time for them to bounce back. I think it's going to be 2011 in Arlington. Give me the Rangers in 7. I see it right now. I think Jacob deGrom's waited too long to pitch in the World Series. I think this is his year. I think he's going to be coming through. He's going to be blowing through people in the AL. I think he's ready. I think there's just too much going for the Rangers. People are sleeping on them too much. I love how the Rangers look, and I really like how the Mariners are looking. But give me the Rangers in 6. So this will be the AL champion. Moving on to the NL championship, this was going to be the Brewers versus the Mets. Both starting rotations, unbelievable. I think this is straight up going to come down to who's deeper. And in my opinion, I got to say the Brewers are deeper. I think the Brewers are ready. I think the Mets, sadly, they kind of have a reputation of choking. But, like I've said, I don't really trust their health. That's a big question mark for them. And, this is when depth comes in. This is where it really matters. So, give me the Brewers in 6 against the Mets. The Brewers will finally be getting back to the World Series, and they will be your NL champions. Now, moving on to the World Series, I have the Milwaukee Brewers versus the Texas Rangers. Now, both rotations are going to be pitching their minds off. I got to think that the Rangers have a better offense and the Brewers have the better pitching. Give me the Brewers. Ooh, this is hard. Give me the Brewers. I think the Brewers pitching, I like the Brewers pitching too much. I really do. I really, really do. They're a good pitching team. They are hard to play against in the postseason. Like I keep mentioning, Burns, Woodruff, Peralta, they're going to get it done, and they're going to win it in 6. The Milwaukee Brewers will be the 2023 World Champions. Book it now. So let me know what I got wrong, what I got right, what you agree, disagree with. And thank you so much for watching. See you next time.